So question 7 is getting us to look at sketching polynomials, and part 2 and part 3 gets us to look at some transformations and how we would rewrite it. So the first part of this question is asking us to sketch the curve y equals x squared 3 minus x. We need to look at three things. We need to look at the shape of the curve, we need to look at where it crosses the x-axis, and we need to look at where it crosses the y-axis. So hopefully you can see that if I expanded this out, I would end up getting 3x squared minus x cubed. So it's a negative cubic graph. And negative cubic shape, rather than being the normal cubic, it just flips around, so it's going to look something like that. And now I need to look at where it crosses the axis. So when x is 0, in this equation, if I set x is 0, then we've got y going to be 0, because we've got 0 squared multiplied by something, so it's going to give us 0. And then if we look at when y equals 0, so when y is 0, we've got x squared 3 minus x equals 0. Now if I solve this, if x squared was 0, x would have to be 0. Because it's squared here, it means it's a repeated root. So there's actually two values that you could have. You could have positive 0 or negative 0. It doesn't really make sense when we're talking about 0, but it means that there's a repeated root, so it just touches the axis at x is 0. Then the other part, if 3 minus x was equal to 0, then x would have to be 3. So we've got our two x values where it crosses the axis, and we've got our point where it crosses the y-axis as well, and we know what the shape is. So if I was going to sketch that graph out, so we know it looks like this. We know it's going to go through 0, 0, 0, 0, and we also know it's going to go through 3 on the x-axis. So following our shape, we know that it just touches the curve at x equals 0 because of that repeated root. So the curve's going to look something similar to that, where it just touches the curve at 0, 0, and it goes through x is 3, and it looks like the negative cubic graph. Okay, so part 2 of this question, still working with the same equation of the curve, we're told it is translated 2 units in the positive x direction. If I was going to look at that in function terms, so I'd start off with my f of x, which is my original equation, and that's being translated 2 units in the positive y direction. So when it's being translated in the x direction, it affects what's happening inside the brackets, and because we're talking about the x direction, it's opposite, so we need to think about it being minus 2 instead of the positive 2 that you would think it to be. Once you've got that, then you just need to change all of the x's that are in your original equation into x minus 2. So let's go ahead and do that. So we had x squared 3 minus x, and I want to change all of the x's into x minus 2. So I have x minus 2 squared, brackets 3 minus x minus 2. And a little bit of simplifying, so that ends up giving me x minus 2 squared, and then that last bracket would give me 5 take away x. So that's the new equation of the curve once it's been translated 2 units in the positive x direction. And then finally in question 7, there's part 3 which says, describe the transformation from our original equation to half of that original equation. So again, if I put it in f of x terms, in function terms, so we've got f of x is going to half f of x. So you can see that it's multiplying by something, so it's got to be a scale factor, it's got to be a stretch. So it's got to be a stretch scale factor. So in this case, because it's outside of the brackets, it's not the reciprocal of it, it's just the number that's on the outside of the f of x, so it's a scale factor of a half. And because it's outside of the brackets, it's affecting the y-axis. If it was inside the brackets, it would affect the x-axis, but in this instance it's outside, so it's a stretch scale factor of half parallel to the y-axis. You need to have all of that information. You need to have it's a stretch, it's got a scale factor of half, and it's parallel to the y-axis to get full marks for that question. Thank you.